Something reportedly snapped inside the Indiana Fever practice facility last week. And this time, it wasn't about stats, minutes, or even wins. It was about control. According to multiple insiders close to the situation, Stephanie White, the Fever's head coach, and Caitlin Clark, the team's generational rookie, allegedly got into a heated verbal exchange during practice. It wasn't violent, it wasn't physical, but it was loud. One phrase echoed through the gym: "I'm still the coach here." And from that moment forward, the air in the locker room hasn't been the same. No cameras caught it, no mic'd-up segments aired it, but whispers spread fast. Because when the coach has to remind a superstar who's in charge, it's clear something inside the team dynamic has shifted, maybe for good. When the Fever drafted Caitlin Clark with the #1 overall pick, it looked like a perfect pairing on paper. Clark, the high-octane, record-breaking scorer with unlimited range, joining forces with Stephanie White, a respected coach known for developing young talent and keeping order in emotional locker rooms.
I'm just so proud of with this group is it doesn't matter who's on the floor, it doesn't matter who's on our roster. They give each other the freedom to be themselves. They empower one another to be themselves and to be the best version of themselves.
White praised Clark's competitiveness early on, calling her a generational player with a leadership gene. Clark returned the respect, crediting White for trusting her voice in playmaking. Everything looked aligned, the superstar and the steady hand guiding her. But success changes people, or at least it changes how people are perceived. The moment Clark started dominating headlines, the balance began to tilt. The Fever became a media circus overnight. Reporters, cameras, endorsements, cameras again. And through it all, White was forced to share her authority with a 22-year-old rookie whose shadow now stretched across the entire franchise. Behind the scenes, the Fever weren't functioning like a typical basketball team anymore. Players were reportedly being told to adjust media schedules to accommodate Clark's sponsor events. Practice footage was being reviewed not just by coaching staff, but by marketing executives, checking which clips could go viral. It might sound small, but to players and coaches, those moments build resentment.
Caitlin Clark has single-handedly revived the WNBA, and every player needs to thank her. The WNBA has been a losing organization since their first season in 1997. In 27 years, they have lost an average of $10 million per year, and they're projected to lose $50 million in just this year.
Suddenly, basketball feels secondary to optics. Stephanie White was reportedly trying to keep things balanced, demanding accountability, structure, and a sense of hierarchy. But Clark's growing fame made that nearly impossible. One insider described the atmosphere like this: "It's not that Caitlin disrespects White, it's that the power she holds outside the gym naturally bleeds into what happens inside it." And then came the practice that everyone's been whispering about. Midweek. Closed practice. The Fever were coming off a frustrating loss. White reportedly wanted to slow things down, refocus on defense and team execution. Clark, on the other hand, was locked into her rhythm, calling for faster pace, quick reads, and more freedom in the offense. When White stopped a drill to redirect players, Clark allegedly continued calling out adjustments, trying to lead the next play. That's when White reportedly slammed her clipboard and shouted, "Enough! I'm still the coach."
Go to grab the ball, and then I just dribble out and I literally just start smiling so big, and I look at Steph and I told her after the game,
that better be on film.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't understand how hard it was for me to not throw that. And she's like, "Oh, I know, trust me." Everybody was like, "We saw you about to throw that."
The gym went silent. Teammates like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell froze. Even assistant coaches hesitated. One witness described it as the most uncomfortable silence all season. Clark, reportedly stunned, didn't respond. She just looked toward her teammates and nodded slightly before walking toward the sideline. Practice ended minutes later. It was quick, but powerful, because in that instant, everyone saw the power struggle that had been bubbling for months finally burst. After that practice, the Fever reportedly held a closed-door team meeting. Clark didn't speak much. Sources say she sat back quietly while veterans voiced frustration about media pressure and team focus. White addressed the group, saying she wanted everyone pulling in the same direction, but the energy was tense. Later that evening, a few players reportedly went out together, without Clark. Not as a snub, but as a release. They were frustrated. They needed space. Meanwhile, Clark's camp, including her management and PR team, reportedly checked in with Fever executives, concerned about how the story might leak. It didn't take long. Within 48 hours, word started to spread among WNBA reporters and social media accounts that something heated had happened in practice. And when that phrase hit the internet, the floodgates opened.
Clip bothered me because if you watch that play where she didn't pass Kelsey the ball after Coach Stephanie White benched her for having a few turnovers in a row, that would have been a momentum shift in the game. That actually looked like it could have been a wide open pass, and it's something that Caitlin does on the regular.
Fans began speculating whether Stephanie White had lost the locker room or whether Clark had simply outgrown the chain of command. It's no secret that owner Steve Simon is fully invested in the Caitlin Clark era. He's poured millions into attendance, facilities, and marketing, all to capitalize on the Clark effect. So when this confrontation reached his desk, insiders say Simon didn't ignore it. He reportedly called an emergency front office huddle, including White, GM Lynn Dunn, and PR staff, to discuss internal communications control. In other words, keep this story quiet before it explodes. But Simon wasn't just thinking about damage control. He was thinking about future control. If the relationship between White and Clark couldn't be repaired, Simon would face a brutal decision: protect the coach who built the structure, or the superstar who is the structure. And make no mistake, this isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about the Fever's entire brand identity. You could feel the divide growing. Some veterans reportedly backed Stephanie White, saying she's been too patient while the front office and media constantly revolve around Clark.
And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
I'll ask about the game too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Others felt Clark was being unfairly targeted, pointing out that her intensity, passion, and demand for excellence are what make her elite. The locker room became two camps: those who value the system and those who value the superstar. One anonymous player summed it up in brutal honesty: "It's not about who's right, it's about who the franchise listens to." And when that quote leaked online, fans knew exactly what it meant. Control of the Fever wasn't in question anymore. It was up for grabs. Publicly, both sides handled things perfectly. White smiled through interviews, praising Clark's competitive spirit. Clark smiled right back, saying White pushes her to be better. It was textbook PR. But fans who pay attention saw subtle differences. Clark's post-game interactions with teammates looked colder. White's tone in pressers sounded flatter, less animated. And the once frequent public hugs between coach and star after big wins? Gone. It's like they both agreed to keep the peace, not because they solved the problem, but because they had to. Neither could afford another headline, not this close to the playoffs. What most fans don't realize is that these leaks don't just happen randomly. They're strategic. When an insider story like this appears, especially one with quotes and details, it often means someone wants it out there. Some believe the leak came from players loyal to White, frustrated that Clark's influence was going unchecked. Others think it was Clark's camp trying to get ahead of a negative story, framing it as a passionate exchange instead of a power struggle. Either way, it worked. The internet exploded with debate. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who's really in control? Meanwhile, Fever management quietly shifted attention back to ticket sales, charity appearances, and highlight reels. Because in sports PR, the rule is simple: if you can't kill a story, drown it in distractions.
I've definitely been giving the benefit of the doubt this entire season. I just would hate to see some of the things that make Caitlin Caitlin, the things that fans love the most about Caitlin, be coached out of her. Those risky passes, the 10 turnovers, it might just happen.
This situation isn't just an Indiana problem. It's a WNBA problem. The league is entering a new era powered by media-driven stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and Juju Watkins soon to follow. These players don't just play. They move markets. They sell jerseys, spike ratings, and draw sponsors that the league has never seen before. But that power comes at a cost. Coaches, owners, and even league officials now have to balance traditional basketball hierarchy with influencer-style celebrity. Clark isn't just an athlete. She's a business. And in this business, control means money. Stephanie White represents what the league used to be: discipline, respect, systems that last. Caitlin Clark represents what the league has to become: entertainment, freedom, and personality-driven dominance. Their reported clash wasn't personal, it was philosophical, and the entire WNBA is watching how Indiana handles it. Because if the Fever can't stabilize this superstar dynamic, every other franchise with a rising face of the league could face the same storm. Right now, insiders say the Fever are moving forward. Practices have reportedly been calmer, but you can feel the tension. Clark continues to deliver massive numbers on the court, while White remains poised on the sidelines. But the relationship hasn't fully healed. Steve Simon's next move will define everything. If he sides too heavily with Clark, he risks losing his locker room. If he sides with White, he risks alienating the biggest star the league has ever seen. It's a no-win situation, unless both women can rebuild trust, and that's something no owner, no PR team, and no press release can force. At the end of the day, this story is about more than a heated argument in practice. It's about the evolution of power in modern women's basketball. Once upon a time, coaches were untouchable. Now, the athletes are the system. Stephanie White had every right to reassert authority. She's earned her place. But Caitlin Clark has also earned her influence. She's carried the WNBA to record-breaking heights. The question now isn't who's right, it's can they coexist? Because the Fever's future, and maybe even the WNBA's next decade, depends on it. If you think Stephanie White was right to take control, drop a fire emoji in the comments. If you believe Caitlin's leadership should be trusted more, hit that like button and let your voice be heard. Either way, this story isn't over. Make sure you subscribe, because when the next chapter of this Fever saga unfolds, it could shake the entire league.